What does it mean to be a priestess? So you might have heard this term before. You might just know a Christian priest, and this is a bit different. However, there are some similarities in the service and devotional work. But I will be more focusing on the word that is now known in New Age spirituality, but also refer back to the ancient times, and that this is not just something New Agey. This is actually something that is coming from our lands and our origin. And why do I talk about this? Because I refer to myself, at least on my social media, as a cacao priestess. If you want to follow my journey there on Instagram, you can find me under Kakaozauber. I'll put that in the description. And I don't refer to myself in a spiritual ego way of claiming to be a priestess, which whatever that is, right? So I could obviously dress up and fulfill the visual role of it, but actually what I think it really means is to be in integrity in your devotion and your dedication as well as your service. So I've got my rising sign in astrology in Virgo, and I was very astonished and surprised when I heard about the origins of this sign. So Virgo, we all know, comes from the virgin. However, the original sense of virgin doesn't mean innocent in terms of not having had intercourse. It actually means in devotion and dedication to the goddess and to a temple. So those Virgos, these virgins, were temple priestesses. They still were allowed to have sex. They even often had families outside of their work. However, they didn't have a classic marriage life in that sense, where they were dedicated to the household and to their housework. No, they actually came back and structured the temple, were of service to other people, were of service of the temple and the goddess. So this is a really interesting fact, I'd say. And when I found out that this is my rising, so where I'm heading towards, more and more I realized that this was a very important core fact that I needed to know for my service-based work, because I always, as I said in the previous video, I started to become a teacher, and I really love teaching in many ways. However, when I became self-employed, I was like, well, I now need to find my sense of purpose and motivation for doing this work that keeps me going, other than just being employed by the school system and then having my money motivation or the motivation of the kids or whatever, which is all beautiful motivations, but it's still the outside that gives you that motivation. It's not really coming from within, and I was wondering, what is this within? And this within doesn't necessarily fit into a school system, because there's many teachings in school that I don't agree with, especially the way I'm supposed to teach kids and young adults, like through the school book. And I have to structure every lesson. This doesn't work for me. I love improvising. I love working organically with the people I have in front of me, individually as well, and depending on their needs and what they need, and everyone is different, so not everyone functions as this robot in the book, hence why that didn't resonate. And then I found the work of the priestesses and realized that is pure devotion. So what am I devoted to? I think, for me personally, the priestesses are there, as well as the priests, to help people facing the unknown, to help people going through the dark discomfort in life. For me, that is what I'm devoted to. And even though I don't burn sage and smudge sticks every day, or perform crazy rituals and spells, not at all. I have a pretty lovely normal life. I do love my magic tools, and I love my cacao and my drums, but mainly I do love connecting with people and interacting, as well as resting and going around, traveling, seeing the world, seeing nature, connecting to my loved ones, close people. I love conversations, and all of this I can still put this devotional work in, because I feel in the actual real life interactions, no matter if it's in the spiritual community or in the classic societal mainstream community, in business, wherever, that's where we are faced with the discomfort, with the triggers. That's where we're faced with our fears, whatever your fears are. You've heard a little bit about my fears in the previous video, so they come up no matter how much spiritual work we do, unless we hide in that spiritual world and just go traveling from beautiful hippie spot to next hippie spot, and still there you'll experience your own triggers, because life will give them to you in some way or another. So for me, it's not about running away. For me, it's about facing this and transforming it. So I will talk a little bit about the drums soon as well. And now just think of it as human beings, often in those moments of pain, despair, darkness. That's when we go to the church and pray. That's when we reach out to a priest. That's when we ask an astrologer or a tarot reader about answers. And here I refer to my absolutely lovely friend Julia. So she is the one of the main reasons why I actually started this YouTube channel. So I love you. By the way, her card readings are amazing. But do you know what I mean? This is the time when we are in darkness and despair. It's when we reach out to those people. And that's where the priestess comes in too. But so far, what people have done in our Western world, especially Central Europe, so I'm from Germany, but I live in the UK, so this kind of area, this is what I'm talking about, is we would only have the chance really of a Christian priest in Christianity, which is a lot of dogma and very uncomfortable for a lot, because it's often connected with a lot of trauma, with a lot of suppression, especially of emotions and sexuality. So suppression of a lot of natural instincts, which can cause a lot of pain and more pain. Great. So what then people did, if they didn't want to get help from that community, they would reach out to Indian philosophies, yoga, Native American traditions, other plant maybe based shamanisms in some other continents. It's great. There are amazing teachings and amazing philosophies behind it. However, they come from completely different countries, origins, and cultures. And what we often forget is that in our land and where we come from, we have that too. We have something that predates Christianity. We have something that maybe resonates even deeper with us. This is in mythology, for example, Germanic mythology. This is in Celtic traditions, in the Wheel of the Year, in the Celtic festival seasons, in also Central European seasonal festivals like harvests and Candlemas, and all those things, by the way, were adopted by Christianity. So they couldn't really get rid of it. So they just had to adopt it. Oh, great, very innovative. Anyway, so what predates that Christian is, for example, the drum and the goddess worship, as I said before, as priestess. You worship the goddess, and that's something that is it's actually the first the devotional, spiritual act of human beings that we know of. It's due to really old cave paintings, engravings and statues and sculptures of women drumming, for example. And the drum connects us back to the rhythm of nature, reminds us that we are part of nature. So you might hear the street here, right? I'm in this apartment, streets just there. I mean, although I do live in the countryside, so to say, it's still a little town, and I'm in a concrete apartment and building block. And you might live in a big city and think like, oh, but I can't connect to nature. You are nature. We are nature. This is nature. even the little flowers. The skins, everything. As I made these drums, this one was created on a summer solstice, my birthday in Germany. This was created on a winter solstice in Avalon here, Glastonbury. So I built these myself, and so this is one form of connecting to nature, crafting with your hands, but also listening within and realizing that you are not something outside, and connecting to your own rhythms and cycles. And the drum is that instrument of the rhythm business. It's like the oldest known instrument. However, it's also been used, misused, abused for example, military purposes, right? We all know, doom, doom, let's go to war, And with Christianity coming in, women were forbidden to drum the drum and to be in temples and such. So lots of distortion in our history, or especially in the her story. Hence why these instruments are coming back, I think, as well as the word priestess. And you might have heard of the priestess of Avalon. Otherwise, it's very much likely, otherwise you might have not found me. But if you haven't heard of the priestesses of Avalon or Avalon itself, then I'll definitely talk more about it, so stay tuned. Because yeah, I live in the physical placement of Avalon, but Avalon itself really actually resides in our hearts. So priestess of Avalon essentially is a priestess of the heart. And more, especially in the last 2 decades, women are drawn to that ancient knowledge, to that Celtic knowledge, to those legends with King Arthur and the sword, to the Lady of the Lake. That is not a coincidence, because I think it needs more people living and diving into the power of their hearts. And the drum is one of those beautiful ways you can do that, by, for example, using it to connect to nature, to beat in your own rhythm, find your own rhythm, find your own voice, open your own voice, as well as come into a trance state through a certain rhythm. You can, and you don't need to drum yourself. You can put that on Spotify or YouTube and find a drumming video or sound, so that's totally fine too. And what happens in that trance state is we are quieting the outside noise, those constructs of how we should behave and who we should be that have been put onto us from young on and are in our heads and in our thoughts. And so we silence that for a moment to connect to our body as well as our subconscious, find our intuitions really as well, connect to the soul or the heart or whatever you think you truly are, without that construct of what people told you were. So that's one beautiful part of my work, to work with the drums, which I'm still exploring. I'm not a master in it at all. I believe no one really is a master, we're only the master for ourselves. So I always say, as soon as someone tells you how to think or what to believe, then stay discerning, because we live in a free will universe and you always have the choice. So I'm more here to give you ideas and support how you can tap into that, and also to find what resonates with you, because if you resonate with other philosophies and cultures, oh my gosh, go for them. I just think it's very important to point out that wherever you come, if you come from this area or have ancestry in those lands, like the UK, like Germany, like Scandinavia, the Netherlands, or Central Europe, that we have that spirituality too, that we usually seek in India through yoga, Bhagavad Gita or other ancient texts. We have ancient knowledge and wisdom too. And often, funny enough, we find some of those in Christianity as well still, because, as I said, they adopted a lot. Anyway, so this is a little bit about the work as a priestess that I strive to do, to keep doing, so that I at some point deserve that term if at all. I don't need to be named like this. It's just for me as a reminder to aspire to live in service and to do the devotional work and dedicate my work to facing the unknown. So why am I doing this as well? As you heard before, I face this myself regularly, and I'm regularly in the dark, don't know where I'm going, and feel pain and discomfort and the unknown. But because I've also had help through cacao and other tools like the drums, and of course other friends and mentors, I realized this is where I'm heading, because often our deepest fears and core wounds, as well as our weaknesses, are actually those things that we are meant to help others with. Or when we struggle with disease, and I had my own journey with that, that's a story for another time, then when we recover from something or we heal from something very traumatic, that's often our biggest gift to share with the world. So here I am sharing this, still exploring it, still learning about it myself, but knowing in my heart that I'm actually dedicating myself to this work and to helping people face the unknown. So please let me know how that resonates with you. If you want to hear more stories of Avalon, of the legends of King Arthur, if you'd rather have practical advice, because I love to keep practical. I love mythologies and I like stories and different realms and ideas. However, I'm not using the drums to travel to different realms or find my spirit guides. I'm actually using them to breathe again, to come to a pause, to come into my body. And then, yes, sometimes I do receive answers and messages because I quiet my mind, but it's mainly to also open my voice, to sing, to pray, to come into presence mainly. So I like to keep it practical, and would love to hear from you what you'd like to discover more, because as you know, I'm still building this site and this account, this channel. And as you know, also if you want to hear more about my work with cacao and as a cacao priestess, just send me a message or again comment, and see you soon.